What's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today I'm doing the end of the year champions reports. We are starting with the WBA regular title, all divisions, 122 all the way to heavyweight. If any of those divisions still had the WBA regular belt entering the year, we're going to discuss the year, but each one of those titles and what happened this year. I'm also going to be doing some awards on each, governing body's belt throughout the year, but I'm going to do those ones separately. But just as just a recap of the year and what we could be seeing heading into the new year. Now, we know that WBA has been consolidating their world titles down to one champion for the last couple years. Entering 2022, we had, I believe it was 7 active regular belts, and we are now down to 5. So we're going to go over each belt from each division from 122 to heavyweight, seeing which belts are still around, and we're going to get into what could be coming up this year. Are we going to have more consolidations to where the regular belts are going to be rubbed out completely? Let's take a look and go from there. So we start with 122. There was no regular champion coming into the year. Marajan Akhmadaliyev was the super champion and the only WBA belt holder. 126. Lee Wood entered the year as the newly crowned champion. He knocked out Can Shu of China back in August of 2021 to claim the WBA regular belt all year. Well, and then he had a mandatory fight due against Michael Conlon in March, and a fight that many people, myself included, thought Conlon was going to win. And during that fight, Conlon was winning the fight, outboxing Lee Wood, but Lee Wood was landing his shots and mixing it up, and he was getting closer and he was getting closer. Finally, he hurt Conlon badly in the 11th round, and he was well down on the scorecards. And then in the 12th round, he brutally knocked Michael Conlon out to retain his regular belt. Then he was reordered to take on super champion Leo Santa Cruz to consolidate the belt. The belt kept getting held up in terms of, kept getting held up on negotiations. Other things, other moving pieces caused both Santa Cruz and Lee Wood to agree to fight other opponents before fighting each other. Wood was supposed to fight Mauricio Lara in September, and Santa Cruz was supposed to unify against undefeated WBC champion Ray Vargas. Both those fights fell through when Lee Wood got injured in preparation for Lara, and Santa Cruz and Ray Vargas actually decided he wanted to move up to 130 and challenge for the belt there. So then they got reordered to fight, and again, Santa Cruz finally, this month of December, decided to vacate his portion of the Super Championship, and now we only have one world champion at 126. So there is no more regular belt at 126 pounds, as Lee Wood is the official WBA champion. So that's one belt down. 130, there was no regular champion coming into the year. Roger Gutierrez entered the year as the only champion. 135 lightweight, undefeated Gervonta Tank Davis entered the year as the reigning champion. I think he captured that belt in December of 2019 when he defeated Yuriorkis Gamboa. He made a couple defenses of it, I believe, coming in, and I think it was in May. At the end of May, he headlined a Showtime pay-per-view card, took on undefeated Rolly Romero, and after a bit cautious first few rounds, Tank opened up and stopped Romero in the 6th round, retaining that regular belt. Then we found out in early December that Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia had agreed to a 136-pound catchweight fight, which doesn't involve the regular belt. But the reason I'm bringing it up is Tank announced that he would have a tune-up, so to speak, or a fight prior to that. And on Saturday, January 7th, on Showtime pay-per-view, Tank is going to take on the current WBA super featherweight champion at 130, Hector Luis Garcia. So that will be for the regular belt at 135. And you know, after that, I don't know if we're going to consolidate that belt. I think there's a good chance the belt will be consolidated down to one champion by the end of the year, but it's going to be based on the result of Tank and Ryan Garcia when they collide, which looks like it's going to be in I believe April or May. I think they're going to lock horns in a big super fight at 136. If Tank is successful, I think he's going to stay at 135 and seek out a big fight, possibly with Devin Haney or Vasily Lomachenko, as they are set to collide for the undisputed title. I think Tank and the WBA would order Tank to fight the winner of that bout. Now, if Tank loses to Ryan Garcia, and let's say he gets knocked out, which I'm in the camp of I believe Tank is going to get knocked out, I think there's a good chance Tank gives up the belt at 135, consolidating that title. So if I had to make a prediction on what's going to happen this year for the regular belt at 135, I'm predicting that Tank is going to be knocked out by Ryan Garcia in their catchweight fight. He'll beat Hector Garcia in January, and then he'll get knocked out by Ryan. And I think he's going to end up vacating the super champion or the regular championship, and the winner of Haney and Lomachenko will be declared the only WBA champion. Or I also think there's a chance that Tank waits out the winner of that fight, and the winner moves in another direction and doesn't fight Tank and gives up that belt after after declaring an undisputed champion. So, which is possible, and then Tank gets upgraded. But I think there's a pretty good chance that the belt is going to be consolidated by the end of the year for 135 pounds. 140, there is no champion at junior welterweight 140. Coming into the year, there wasn't one. Josh Taylor was the undisputed WBA champion coming into the year, and that's it. 147, Radzab Butayev was the undefeated WBA regular champion coming into the year. He had captured the belt, beating I think Jamal James last year, impressively stopping him. And he had a mandatory showdown with undefeated Imantas Stanionis in April on the Spence Ugas undercard. And these two guys went to war. It was a really good back and forth battle, but Stanionis outworked Butayev, stopping him. Or no, not stopping him. It ended up being a 12-round split decision as Stanionis became the WBA regular champion. Then they did the Spence and Crawford dance. Stanionis did. Stanionis was in line to fight Spence, who was the newly crowned WBA champion and unified champ also. He was in line to fight him, and they had to do the Crawford dance because that fight stalled. Stanionis agreed to take step-aside money in order to allow the super showdown between Crawford and Spence to happen for undisputed. Then when the fight didn't happen, in that area, the WBA decided to order Stanionis and number one contender, undefeated Virgil Ortiz Jr. to fight. So now those two guys are going to square off early in 2023. Virgil Ortiz and Stanionis, both in the biggest fight of their careers. That's going to be a big one. I personally believe Ortiz is going to win that fight, but I really do think Stanionis has a good chance. After that, I don't believe whoever the WBA champion is going to fight the winner of that fight. I think it's more likely if Stanionis stays champion that Errol Spence would fight him if he's still the unified champ at that point. But it's really up in the air based on what's going to happen between Spence and Crawford, if they're going to get together and make that super fight happen or not. And they have to do it now because there's mandatories due for almost every one of the governing titles. So we're going to see what happens, but that's what's going on with the 147-pound welterweight title. I think there's about a 50-50 chance that belt gets consolidated and a new champion is crowned or inherited at 147. 154, there was no regular champion coming into the year. Jamel Charlo was the WBA and undisputed and unified champ coming into the year, so no belt there. 160, middleweight. Erislandy Lara was the new champ. He had claimed that regular belt last year when he knocked out Cornflake LaManna. In May on the Tank Davis and Rolly Romero undercard, he retained his championship with a dominant performance over veteran Spike O'Sullivan. He dominated him, stopped him in 8 rounds, and retained the belt. Then in, I think, September, October, after the Triple G Canelo fight, he was ordered to fight to declare one champion to consolidate the belts with Triple G, who is still the middleweight champ. But the IBF, I guess, in a agreed upon deal prior to that order, was put ahead. Their number one contender was put ahead of Lara to fight Triple G next. So right now it's up in the air on what Triple G is going to do. He's supposed to be fighting Esquiva Falchao for the, which is his IBF mandatory. But if he were to forego that fight and give up that belt, then he would probably have to fight Lara next. There have been rumors that Lara could be fighting Danny Garcia next. And Danny Garcia actually in the past few days has been ranked at middleweight as a contender in order to secure that fight, I'm assuming, with Lara. I think that's the direction Lara's probably going to go in, is fighting Danny Garcia. I personally feel he beats Danny Garcia, but at some point, I could see Triple G fighting Lara, or Triple G gives up that belt and Lara gets upgraded to the full champion of the WBA, and then we'll see what happens there. But I do think there's a good chance that the middleweight regular title for the WBA gets consolidated in 2023. 168, the champion right now, entering the year as champion was, as regular champion was the undefeated David Morrell. And I think he was upgraded to regular champ in 2021. He defeated in June, he took on some unknown guy named Kelvin Hernandez, I think. Dominated him, stopping him in a few rounds. And then he took on Aidos Yorbasanuli in November. And he stopped him impressively with a brutal knockout in the 12th round. Right now, I don't know. Canelo's the undisputed champion at 168. He is likely going to be fighting his WBO mandatory next in John Ryder, and then probably moving up to 175 to fight Dimitri Bivol for the light heavyweight title. If Canelo were to beat Bivol in the rematch, then I think he probably stays at 175 for the moment, but we really don't know, because 175 is not Canelo's division. So a lot of what happens with Morrell is going to be dependent on Canelo. I think it's a 50-50 chance that Morrell could be upgraded to the WBA champion because Canelo vacates that belt at some point. Or I think that the WBA continues to let Canelo do what he wants in whatever division as long as he's the champ, and they let him decide. So we'll see what happens. I'm not really sure on this belt because it really depends on what happens with Canelo Alvarez. 175, there was no regular champion at light heavyweight coming into the year. There was only Dimitri Bivol was the only champ. 200, Riyad Merhi was the regular champion at cruiserweight coming into the year. He was supposed to fight, he had decided to take on somebody, what was it, Ilunga Makabu, the WBC champion. That fight fell through, and then he got ordered to fight the super champion Arsene Goulamirian, the only guy that ever beat Merhi, and he decided to vacate the belt and move up to the heavyweight division. So right now there is no regular champion anymore at cruiserweight. That belt's been consolidated. And now finally at heavyweight, the Trevor Bryan entered the year as the undefeated heavyweight champ in January. He took on some guy whose name is I'm losing his name right now. He took him on, got a split decision victory on a Don King pay-per-view card, and then signed on for a mandatory showdown with Daniel Dubois in June. And Dubois dominated Trevor Bryan, stopping him in the 6th round and capturing the WBA regular belt. Then in December, Dubois defended that title against former cruiserweight contender Kevin Lerena, and got more than he bargained for. He got put down 3 times in the 1st round, barely survived it. He got his legs back towards the end of the 2nd, and then knocked Lerena out in the 3rd, overwhelming him with right hand. So, interesting fight. Crazy how it ended. Daniel Dubois still the WBA regular champion heading into the end of the year. Now, he has been ordered to fight the super champion and unified champ Alexander Usyk, but right now I heard that they are consolidating, or that they are making a deal for Usyk and Fury to fight for the undisputed title, and they're probably going to work out a deal with all the mandatories that are due, because Joe Joyce is due in the WBO. Daniel Dubois is the WBA regular champ. He's due a title shot. I think Filip Hrgović is due an IBF title shot. There's currently not a mandatory for the WBC belt held by Fury, but the winner of Undisputed, I really think it's going to be Tyson Fury. And then I think Tyson Fury is going to end up giving up a couple belts because he's going to fight the winner of Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz, in my opinion, because that's for the WBC interim belt. That's going to be a bigger fight than any other fight out there for Fury in the second half of the year. So I really believe that Daniel Dubois is going to get upgraded to full champion, and that heavyweight title is going to be consolidated. So at the end of all this, I think we're going to get rid of, likely going to get rid of the lightweight title. We're likely going to get rid of the welterweight title. I think there's a good chance at the middleweight belt going bye-bye, and I think there's a good chance of the heavyweight belt going bye-bye. We might only have, and that might not even be true, we might only have one regular champion by the end of the year at super middleweight, because I think Canelo's really tying things up there, but he might even give up that belt, and David Morrell might get upgraded to full champion. So some interesting things to happen, coming up. But that's the champions report for the WBA regular titles for the end of the year for 2022. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and took the time. I know it's a lot of information, but it's all legit stuff that's actually happening and coming up. And that's what I got. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.